Listen to your favorite shows live and on demand 24/7. Download the 77 WABC mobile app now. In the squadron, they called him Bullets, but we call him Greg Kelly. Greg Kelly is on the air
on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
Hey, Secret Service guy, the acting director, just came out of hiding. He's been hiding, trying to get his story straight, and he's having a news conference. Huh? How about that? Almost a month after the event. Now he will talk to the media. You sure? You ready? Are you ready? Okay. Turn up the volume.
Planning meetings and a site walkthrough with law enforcement partners and campaign staff. On July 10th, Secret Service counter sniper and technical security personnel arrived in Pittsburgh and began advanced planning for their teams. July 12th, the build-out of the campaign rally site began and continued through the early morning hours of July 13th. In the morning of July 13th, a site briefing was conducted with Secret Service personnel.
All right. This guy is just covering the Secret Service's ass right now. This is all CYA. Look, we did a fantastic job, and the men and women, and don't question them. Turn it back up.
Prior to the site's opening to event staff, vendors, and to the public. At 12:30 p.m., the Secret Service opened the protective site to event staff and vendors, and then at 1 o'clock, magnetometer screening of the estimated 15,000 people attending the campaign rally event, staff and vendors began. At 5:30 p.m., former President Trump arrived at the campaign rally via Secret Service motorcade, and at that time he met with supporters in a secure backstage area within the protective site. At 5:45 p.m., a local Butler County Emergency Services Unit counter-sniper team member texted the Secret Service counter-sniper team leader about a suspicious person and sent 2 photos of the individual, later identified as the assailant. At 5:53 p.m., the Secret Service counter-sniper team leader texted the Secret Service counter-sniper teams that local law enforcement was looking for a suspicious individual outside of the perimeter lurking around the AGR building. At this time, Secret Service personnel were operating with the knowledge that local law enforcement was working on an issue of a suspicious individual. The concept of local law enforcement working on such issues is common at sites.
Working on an issue.
And on July 13th, there were over 100 calls for support. At 6 p.m., former President Trump took the stage to begin remarks.
100
Based on what I know right now, neither the Secret Service counter-sniper teams nor members of the former president's security detail had any knowledge that there was a man on the roof of the AGR building with a firearm. It is my understanding that personnel were not aware the assailant had a firearm until they heard gunshots. At 6:11 p.m., a member of the former President Trump's protective detail contacted their Pittsburgh field office counterpart to inquire about the radio update that there was an issue local law enforcement was looking into near the perimeter.
They had to call Pittsburgh?
At 6:11 p.m., the assailant's first volley of 3 shots was fired, and within 3 seconds, the former president's detail rushed the stage and covered former President Trump, shielding him with their own bodies. The 4 through 8 shots took place over the next several seconds. 15 and a half seconds after the assailant's first shot, a Secret Service counter-sniper fired a single round that neutralized the assailant.
15 seconds.
That concludes
long freaking
a quick
time
brief summary of the timeline. And with that, I'll turn it over to our staff here to begin any questions.
What do you mean, staff?
Hi, sir. Thank you for doing this. You said earlier this week to Congress that You said earlier this week to Congress that you don't want to tip anything on the scale as far as disciplinary action is concerned. I need to ask you, since you testified, has anyone been suspended with or without pay? Has anyone been fired? And will you tell us as people are disciplined along the way, or is this something we're going to need to just constantly be asking? Or will you update and tell us 5 people have been fired, 6 people, 7 people? What can you tell us?
Sure. Thank you for that question, David. So, as I said in my opening statement, there are going to be, there's the mission assurance review.
Oh, Jesus. All right. All right. I'll go back. Mission assurance. They're not going to do a damn thing. Now, the question I want to ask, have you seen the Dave Stewart video, the guy running around on the roof? Why didn't the sniper see him? And did you just say that the Secret Service had to call Pittsburgh to have the Pittsburgh office call the locals? Is that what you said? Take us through that again, Ron. Turn it back up.
So we're not going to be able to provide real-time updates. Or
Imagine that. Real-time updates. You can't even figure out real-time threats.
These were very thorough investigations. And if, in fact, there were policy violations and they are substantiated,
there was a policy violation,
employees will be held accountable.
I think if I just make sure, people want accountability. You may not be able to tell us names or positions or something, but will you be able to say that people have been disciplined? People want to hear that there's some accountability here.
I will be able to, at least at a high level, provide at least some type of statement that people are being accountable, being held accountable.
If I may, and I appreciate this, Fox Digital obtained some new video of
Here we go.
On the roof, which we believe is the assailant that was running back and forth while President Trump was speaking. What do you make when you see of that? How does that go with this timeline here?
Yeah, so it affirms to me, and again, and you heard this from the FBI, and they're still conducting interviews and
looking at this.
Why
are you always
this.
hiding, you jerk?
It even just affirms to me that this was a failure. We should have had better protection for the protectee. We should have had better coverage on that roof line. We should have had at least some other set of eyes from the Secret Service point of view covering that. That building was very close to that outer perimeter, and we should have had more of a presence. And so as far as the timeline of him running back and forth, I know the FBI has provided a bit of a chronology as well, and so I'd have to go back and look at that. But the bottom line is this, David.
Go back and look at it.
This was a Secret Service failure. That roof line should have been covered. We should have had better eyes on that.
What did you learn from the video? What time was the video? What did you see in that video? Was the final position where he shot from in that video? Keep going.
100 calls for support. Who those calls came from and what those looked like. And also, moving forward, do you anticipate, and if so, what any different changes in protocol between how Secret Service communicates or works with local law enforcement specifically as they work to secure events or other things?
Yeah, thank you for that question. So with regards to calls for support, it was a very hot day that day. There was a lot of not only EMS type of calls to address people, but there were people that needed some other type of law enforcement assistance. This happens a lot at outdoor rallies, where especially on hot days. So there was a lot of traffic, radio traffic on the local net about, hey, I need EMT here. So there was a lot of people that were needing assistance. With respect to the interoperability, so one of the things that I've directed,
radio's not talking to radios,
is I've commissioned a task force. And that task force is going to be leveraging the resources of the Department of Homeland Security.
Leveraging the resources.
It'll be co-chaired in all likelihood by someone from the Secret Service and someone from CISA. And I think we're also going to bring in some state and local law enforcement.
How about just buying a few more radios?
It's not an easy fix.
It is,
it's
actually.
Not as simple as just trying to figure out the local frequency of the agency you're working with.
It's even simpler than that.
Typing that into your radio network.
Buy a few more radios.
It requires a substantial technical fix.
Oh, yeah, money.
In the meantime, before we can get to that, what I need to have
more radios.
I need to make sure that our folks, when they're out there, we use a counterpart system. On the day in Butler, we had a Pennsylvania State Trooper in our security room. They also had a unified command post that had some of the other agencies that were on site that day. It is plainly obvious to me that we didn't have access to certain information, not by anybody's fault.
Oh, yeah? How do you know that yet?
There was a sense of urgency, that there might have been radio traffic that we missed. We have to do a better job of that. So moving forward, in addition to this task force that we'll provide more information on next week as we begin to stand that up, I've also directed all of our SACs, our special agents in charge of field offices across the country, to reevaluate where we put our security rooms. If a state or local sets up a unified command post, maybe we need to be in that room as well.
A unified command post.
As opposed to just being in another room and relying on that counterpart system. It was so apparent to me that in this incident, in the final 30 seconds, which has been the focus of what happened before the assailant opened fire. There was clearly radio transmissions that may have happened on that local radio net that we did not have. And so we have to do a better job of co-locating, leveraging that counterpart system.
Co-locating,
and this is going to drive our operations going forward.
60 years after JFK got killed. You haven't figured this out, pal?
We did not. It did not make it over to us. Or whether we did not hear it, it just did not make it over to us. It did not make it to us. And I go back to my opening statement where the members of the detail, they did not. All they knew that the issue, that the locals were working an issue at the president's 3 o'clock, which would have been off to his right, which is where the shot came from.
An issue at the 3 o'clock? What?
To clarify on the 100 calls that you got roughly that day, I understand a lot of them were heat related. How many specifically were suspicious people? Was this the only call, the eventual shooter that was a suspicious character? And then also can you clarify, did you guys have a drone on site? Did you try to use it? And if not, why did you not use the locals' offer of a drone?
Sure. So as I understand it now, based on the information I have, there were other calls of suspicious individuals.
How many?
And your other question was about drones? Drones.
How many?
Sure.
I heard that the other day. I want to know how many. Watch this. He's not going to be clear about the drone.
So we did not have a drone on site. We did not put a drone up. Based on the information I have right now, I am aware that there was a request from a local agency to offer to fly a drone on that day. And that is also part of the mission assurance review that I've asked to get some better insight in. One of the other changes that I implemented when I became the acting director is we are now going to leverage the use of unmanned aerial systems at sites now.
Oh,
so
wow.
We are putting those assets out, and we should have had better line of sight on some of those high ground concerns. We thought we might have had it covered with the human eye, but clearly we are going to change our approach now, and we are going to leverage technology and put those unmanned aerial systems.
They haven't already. The 20-year-old bought that damn drone. Got it flying.
Thank you so much for doing this. You mentioned that there were
he act like he's doing you a favor.
From Butler ESU to U.S. Secret Service counter snipers. I'm curious if that is routine. There were 2 communication channels at the Butler rally, and you referenced earlier this week it appears that information was stuck or siloed at the state and local channel. What was the plan to relay information from locals to the Secret Service initially? What is the protocol? And I just have one follow-up.
Sure. So, Nicole, we use that counterpart system, right? And so the teams, especially on the tactical side, when it comes to the tactical, our counter-assault team, they actually had an embed with them from the local TAC team. And they had that radio net as well with Pennsylvania State Police. With respect to the counter-snipers, they were using cellular or telephone text communications. At this point, moving forward, what I have directed now is that everybody should be using the radio net. And if we don't have the ability to pipe in or leverage that counterpart system, that's one of the things that we're looking at now.
Leverage that
we should be able to have
system.
direct comms with the people that are supporting us, and that's moving forward. That's what I have directed.
Moving forward.
U.S. Secret Service counter snipers did not have radio communication.
Telephone. Text.
Not with the local CS folks that were providing a support. They were basically had an area responsibility independent from where our counter snipers were securing.
And just a last thing, did the U.S. Secret Service counter sniper teams that arrived on site on July 10th ever relay line of sight concerns? What came of that? And can you confirm that this was the first 2024 campaign event that counter sniper teams were assigned to the former president?
Sure. As part of their advance, they identified those line of sight, those high ground concerns, and there's a division of labor. With respect to the whether or not this was the first time, it was the first time Secret Service counter snipers were deployed to support the former president's detail.
Hi, thanks so much for doing this.
Thank you so much for doing
this. I have a question about the review that you did, the picture that you showed in the Senate the other day of the vantage point that the local snipers had. How do you know that that's the window that they were actually posted at? Because they're saying that they're on a completely other side of the building. And related to that, has the Secret Service actually interviewed the snipers that were in the AGR building?
So thank you for that. So once the FBI had released the Butler Farm Show site, we were able to take custody of it, and we sent the full resources of our Office of Investigations, which included the Forensic Services Division.
Answer the freaking
we did a full
question.
Site reconstruction. And
you
this is
bureaucrat,
part of our
this
ongoing
tin-head bureaucrat. He doesn't give a damn about anything other than his stupid agency, which failed at the most catastrophic level. Basic. It really is. This is a deep state. I have a question. When is the last time Kimberly Cheadle had a conversation with either Liz Cheney or Dick Cheney, who somehow think that they run the country and that Donald Trump cannot be the president of the United States again? That's a question. I may just go down there and ask you. I'll be right back.
Greg Kelly
on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
Janine Pirro here for Colonial Metals Group. Colonial Metals Group helps Americans protect their future with the most trusted store of wealth in human history, physical gold and silver. If you're retiring or retired, go to colonialmetalsgroup.com/Pirro for your free Janine Pirro Colonial Metals Group Retirement Protection Kit, or call 800-965-8004. 800-965-8004 now to receive a free home safe and up to $7,500 in free silver.
Greg Kelly, entertaining and informative
on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
This is kind of fascinating. We're not really getting anything in the way of information, but I'm just learning how deceptive and dysfunctional this man is and the Secret Service is. Pump up the volume again, please, as we're live in Washington, D.C., Secret Service headquarters.
With respect to the former president wanting to get back out there, listen, it's a campaign season, right? Candidates want to be out there. They want to be, whether it's an indoor site or an outdoor site, it's on the Secret Service to make sure that we create a secure environment. Listen, we identify challenges, we identify concerns, and then it's on us to figure out what we need to do to mitigate that. So if there are going to be future campaign rallies outside, it's going to be on us to make sure that we are providing all of the assets and resources to make sure that those sites are indeed secure. With respect to the radio transmissions, based on what the FBI, my colleague from the FBI testified the other day, and they are working on isolating some of those radio frequencies from the state and locals, that there was somebody who did in fact radio out that they had seen the individual with a weapon. What I can tell you is that piece of information, that vital piece of information, and by no fault of anyone, it was a very stressful situation. It did not make it over. Our detail,
no fault of anyone, you son of a bitch.
We're operating under the assumption and under the last bit of information they had received that there was an issue that the locals were working at the 3 o'clock. That's the bit of information that we had, not anything about a weapon.
Oh, God. An issue at 3 o'clock. The issue, 8 bullets inbound from 3 o'clock. And no fault of anybody. Wow.
Greg Kelly
on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
Greg Kelly, entertaining and informative
on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
Hey, joined now by the legendary political maven Roger Stone, the best dressed guy in the universe. Richard Nixon was his mentor. He spotted Donald Trump's presidential timber before just about anybody else. Roger Stone, thanks for being with us. Where are you?
Greg, I'm driving from Miami to Jacksonville to speak to a rally tonight for the greatest president since Abraham Lincoln. That would be Donald J. Trump.
That's fabulous. And you're not in a convertible, are you? It sounds like a great drive. We hear the wind. It sounds very pleasant. Hey, wait, there's a rally tonight in Jacksonville for Trump? He's going to be there?
No, this is an indigenous Florida rally put together by supporters here in the state. A number of conservative and Republican-leaning organizations. It's going to be a great night.
I love it.
Laura Loomer and I are speaking.
You know, Laura Loomer's been on this show a couple of times. I'm really impressed with her. She's amazing. She's, very, very aggressive, and but she's a truth teller, and I love it. I love it that you guys are a team.
Yeah, no, I've told her she's got to quit mincing words. She's got to be a little more direct about how she feels, you know?
Folks, Roger, let me ask you something, and I said this on my show last night, and please talk me out of it if I'm worrying too much. I am worried about President Trump. I'm worried about his safety, number one. The rallies are giving me PTSD. I see him go out there. It's like the same image from Pennsylvania. I was wondering if he might benefit from doing what Richard Nixon did in 1968, and that's going before smaller groups of people, undecided voters, and talking to them directly. He has immense charm. He has immense compassion. I feel like he could show another side to himself that he doesn't show at the rallies. Is there any merit to my idea?
Well, there might be, but of course there's only one person who's going to make this decision, and that's Donald Trump. The fact that the Secret Service has suggested to him that he curtail his public rallies, that's like telling him not to breathe air. I mean, he loves people. He loves the crowd size. It is a good indicator of the size of this reform movement. And I don't think he's going to change his campaign style. I actually think his inability to do rallies because of the COVID-19 lockdowns were a key factor in the outcome of that race. So all we can really do is continue to pray for his protection, and I do that, believe me, every day. Like you, I saw Jesse Waters had a whistleblower from the FBI say it's only a matter of time before there's another assault on him. I'm also familiar with the big biblical references in Samuel 1, chapters 15 and 16, the story of the two kings, which seems to foretell this. If you consider Saul as the illegitimate king and David as the good king, well, Saul did try to kill David 3 times. I think there's an allegory there. I think God's telling us something there. So it's a legitimate concern, Greg, but I don't think he's going to change his style. At a minimum, he should do a combination of the kind of large events that are his trademark. But yes, I do think he needs to get before smaller groups because you're right. He's you find out he's very different than you think he is.
Yeah, so many people have been lied to about him, and it's, in a way, it's not changing his style. If it's a different audience, he'll naturally show another side to himself. Hey, Kamala Harris, I've been writing her off as a joke. I can't believe anybody takes her seriously. Maybe I'm too close to it because I've been chronicling her misadventures for 4 years. We need to take her seriously. How much do you think we should focus on her as opposed to the issues, or is it all one and the same?
Well, I think that we play into her hands. If people want to attack her as dumb or want to raise the issue of her sexual history, I think that's a gigantic mistake because then I think there are some women voters who will feel that she's just being attacked because she's a woman. I think that would backfire. I think we need absolutely to remain focused on her record. Her record as the border czar, which she tries to deny she was, but she was. She was responsible for border policy. We may have as many as 20 million illegals in this country, and it's a very, very dangerous situation. We have a crime epidemic. We have a fentanyl epidemic. We have fiscal problems caused by the fact that in many states, the government is required to pay for social services for illegals, even if it means cutting services for U.S. citizens. So she's responsible for the border crossings. This is the Biden-Harris administration. She has to wear the inflation rate. She has to wear the reckless foreign policy that's brought us to the brink of war in 2 different theaters, both in the Middle East and in the Russia-Ukraine conflict. She should not be allowed to walk away from those things. Now, I'm among those who doesn't criticize the president because she clearly has decided that she'll say that she's black when it is politically advantageous to her and say otherwise when it's not. She was bragging about being the first Indian American U.S. senator, but now suddenly she's identifying as black. I think that's race hustling. I'm against it. I think it's a bad idea. I think it speaks to her case, to her character.
How curious are you about the circumstances of Joe Biden's removal from this race? Two things. Number one, I have a theory. I said it out loud publicly that the Democrats put him on that stage because they knew he would self-implode, and therefore they could remove him from the ticket. They knew that that would be the reaction and that he would be that bad. The second thing is when they actually pulled the trigger to make him step down, was it a 25th Amendment thing? Seymour Hersh said that Barack Obama called him up and threatened him with the 25th Amendment. So first one first, if you don't mind, what do you think of that idea that this was kind of a plot against Joe the whole time?
I think it is partially right. In other words, I believe that Biden fully expected to run for re-election, did not want a debate with Trump. Therefore, he challenged Trump to a debate on CNN under extremely disadvantageous rules for Trump, confident that Trump would say no, and then Biden could then say, well, he said anywhere, anytime. I proposed CNN. He said, no, that's it. There'll be no debates. Surprise, Donald Trump accepted. And Donald Trump operated within those rules, and he had a very, very solid debate. We saw Joe melt down. Now, I agree that Obama and other power brokers in their party were probably already telling Joe it was time to head for the exits, that he was going to have a hard time getting reelected. But Joe Biden is famously stubborn for those who know him. And I have a friend who served in the U.S. Senate with him, says he's incredibly stubborn. And, of course, he really believes that he's the best qualified person in the country. He really believes he's doing a great job. So I think it had the effect of pushing him towards the exit. Whether they set him up in the debate knowing that he would fail, I'm not certain about that. It's possible. But then in the final analysis, there is no question. I think I had a source who told me on Friday that Joe would throw in the towel by releasing a letter Sunday afternoon. That same source told me that Obama orchestrated this, and in the end, yes, they had to privately threaten to remove him under the 25th Amendment, which, as you know, only requires the vice president and a majority of the cabinet, something Barack Obama could put together in one afternoon.
They also, I think, may have just shown him a piece of paper or just said something to him about, look, I know that Joe's compromised. I've seen the checks, $200,000, $40,000, money from China going to, Haley Biden and the rest. I think that he's got so much stuff on him. They just had to kind of vaguely even hint that they would open up that can of worms, and it probably scared him to death. Maybe we'll never know. All right. Hey, how about this? The Secret Service right now, they're giving the most bureaucratic, evasive press conference. I am so suspicious of them. You have said that the deep state, and I believe this, took out Richard Nixon, took out JFK. It looks to me like this is, quite frankly, nobody failed. Nobody is this incompetent. There had to be a deliberate kind of component to what happened. And, the Cheneys are so close to the Secret Service. Liz Cheney has bragged about that. She was talking to them before, during, and after January 6th. Agent she's known for 20 years. Sorry, but I think the Cheneys had something to do with the breakdown. And I'm almost done, Roger. It's like if you say Donald Trump is a clear and present danger to the Constitution, to American democracy, it's almost like they're convincing the swamp, the deep state, the Secret Service that they have a duty, an absolute sworn duty to remove that threat. I know it in my bones. I'm terrified of what could happen next.
Well, here's what we do know indisputably. The Secret Service, the Pennsylvania State Police, and local police knew that the man they say was the shooter was on the scene for 92 minutes. They had already seen him use a rangefinder. They knew he was armed, but they neither evacuated President Trump nor did they even tell President Trump. That's willful. That cannot be a mistake. Secondarily, we're told that the counter sniper had the gunman in his sights, but he waited until after he got out a volley of shots at Trump and, God rest his soul, Corey Comparatori. and 2 other people who were wounded, and then killed him, as opposed to following the protocol, which would have been to kill him in advance. He sees the guy lining up a shot and he doesn't kill him. I'm sorry, I just don't think that's a mistake. My greatest fear, and people will say I'm a conspiracy theorist, and that's fine, but I believe that the Secret Service, the CIA, other elements of government were complicit in the murder of JFK. My next book will prove that they were complicit in the attempted murder of President Ronald Reagan, and I think the same forces were at work in Butler, Pennsylvania. My real fear now is that in order to elevate Kamala Harris, to make her President Kamala Harris, to elevate her candidacy, make her the first woman president, that they will contemplate getting rid of poor old Joe. I hope I'm wrong about that. I don't wish that to happen. I'm not saying anything of the kind, but people who are willing to try to kill Trump are certainly capable of something like that.
Or maybe he just quits. Maybe he just says, you know what, but yeah, that nothing. He doesn't want to do that. Last, real quick, Roger, the best dressed man in the universe you are. Where do you think Donald Trump gets his suits?
Yeah, he used to be a Brioni man. He was strictly had his suits made in Brioni, but Brioni also had a space in Trump Tower. I think he buys American now. I think they're made privately by an American company. But it's basically the same broad-shouldered Brioni high armhole style that works extremely well for him. Look, he's one of those guys who understands the strength of uniform. You know, the solid blue shirt, the solid blue suit, the white shirt, the red power tie. Donald Trump invented the red power tie. It's a look that really, really works well for him. Yeah, and yeah, you know what you're going to get. Hey, you know what no one has mentioned? I mean, the guy lost a weight. He looks. I saw him in person. I had a picture taken with him. Guess who's chubbier? Me. I mean, he looks fantastic, and I don't know how he did it, but good for him. Roger, it's a real pleasure talking to you. What time do you take the stage tonight? So I think our event starts at 6:30. Of course, people can tune in at 77 WABC Sunday between 3 and 6 now. You get 3 solid hours of the Roger Stone Show. That is awesome. 3 to 6 right here. Say hi to Laura Loomer for us. Nobody wants to get loomered. If you do, it's the end of your career. And fortunately, she's loomering all the right people. Roger Stone, thanks for being with us, pal. Greg, God bless you. Many thanks. You bet. You bet. All right. Give me a call, everybody. 800-848-9222. 800-848-9222.
Greg Kelly.
On the Red Apple Podcast Network.
Greg Kelly. Entertaining and informative.
On the Red Apple Podcast Network.
You know, they asked the Secret Service guy, hey, we have this video of the guy running all over the roof. You know, what do you see in that? What's going on there? And he just says, well, that affirms to me that we really, there's a really big failure here. Well, what does it tell you? What time did it happen? Was it gone visible? You guys have enhanced it. He's not saying anything, this guy, and I don't like it. I smell a rat. A lot of them. Dave in Pennsylvania. Yeah.
Hey, Greg, a couple things real quick. First of all, to back up Roger, it is written in the book of Daniel, God installs kings, God removes kings. The second thing real quick is that what would the intelligence community have to lose with Trump getting into office except their power and some of their jobs? And then the third thing is, because I know you're in a really good mood, it's time to lose the choo-choo train music and the theme song thing. I mean, that train has left the station. It's old.
What the hell are you talking about? What are you talking about?
What's that? What? That choo-choo train music that comes in and out of your when you come on and off the air.
Choo-choo train. What do you mean by choo-choo train? You call me up and insult the way we have this show produced, Dave? That's not nice at all.
I'm calling you out. I'm calling you out.
Calling you out? No. I think that's very rude. The show is you're hurting a lot of people's feelings right now. There are a lot of people involved in that music selection. Listen to you. You go from the intelligence community wants President Trump dead, which I don't disagree, and now you're saying you don't like the music. Come on. We got bigger things to worry about. All right, Dave?
I knew you couldn't handle it. I knew you couldn't handle it.
What do you mean handle it? Handle it. What do you mean handle it? Handle it.
No, you can't. You can't.
Yes, I can. Watch this. I'm going to handle it right now. I'm going to hang up on you. Click. Okay. I don't know what it is. I just feel like I got to yell at the callers. Not all of them. I don't know. Let's see here. Rob, hello.
Oh, hey, Greg. How you doing? Hey, I wanted to give you kudos for your narrative last night. I was just thinking the same thing in the sense that, a lot of young kids get their information, their news from comedians. And Trump has his base, but I'd like to hear him talk about things that make him actually more empathetic in terms of teen depression and the quality of the jobs that they're creating, school choice, the FBI going to PTA meetings and arresting parents, just to change the message up. The same shtick is getting old in my mind and is not a good counter dealing with Kamala.
Well,
that's my comment.
I know what you mean, but look, who's straightening us out on that a little bit? The pollster, McLaughlin, said, look, there are other things going on at these rallies. Number one, it gets people pumped up to get out. This is a real ground game thing. You got to get them to come out. You got to get that on them. You got to follow up. There's some other things going on at the rally, but yeah, you and I are on the same page. I just want to see more of what I know Trump has, the empathy, the niceness, the way he talks to people about. It's just, I think he could win over people who hate him because they've been lied to. All right, thanks. Let's see. Where is how much time do I have? Is it time? Uh-oh. Barbara, forgive me. Hello.
Hi, Greg. Hey, I have to comment about the Secret Service comment that the radio message didn't get through to them. I have to remind him, over 50 years ago, we put men on the moon, and we talked to them over 50 years ago, and we looked at them. And so we're saying the Secret Service 50 years later is not equipped to view that whole site or any site where you are committed to protecting the former president of the United States and to hear everything that's going on and to communicate. That is the height of absurdity, and we are not that stupid as Americans to believe that. So, but apart from that, I just have to compliment you because I think this is a wonderful push that you're doing to have Trump sit down with smaller groups of people. I love the rallies. I love them dearly. But to have him sit with smaller groups of people and discuss specific issues, be it that they are undecided, be it that they are a group of people very badly affected by energy inflation, which then leads to inflation in everything, be it they are a group of people who are affected by this sexualization of our children in schools, affected by illegals coming in, taking their jobs, having to be supported and paid for, beating and raping and murdering their wives, their daughters, their neighbors, etc. I think to get him in front of those small groups, he would be fabulous. And as you say, people would see sides of him they had not seen before. He is a compassionate, kind, and caring man. But he is a doer. As he always said when he was elected the first time, you'll get tired of winning. You'll get tired of winning. You'll say, no, I don't want to win anymore. But we loved it because we saw a president who actually heard and saw the problems of American people and acted on them. I've never seen anything like it in my life from any politician. And I think you're right that would be a great vehicle for him to display that and for everyone to see it and to see him in action.
All right, Barbara, I'm so glad you approve. Excuse me. A bug just flew into my mouth. We got a bit of an infestation going on here. I think it's seasonal, but I think there might be a little fetid puddle right outside. Many thanks, to be continued.